It's cold. It's getting colder out here. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Exploring the Ka. My name is Rock Castaldo. I'm live. It's been a little while since I did a video as well. If you guys haven't subscribed, please subscribe below. Press the like button. Who's with me right now? We already got some people in there. So yeah, I haven't been live for a while now, a couple weeks. A lot has been going on. Saying hello to everybody. What's up, Simcha? I had a knee injury I was dealing with as well. I just did my first live radio show Saturday night. I had to take a couple weeks off radio as well because I couldn't basically sit in a chair for more than a few minutes at a time. But my knee is getting better. Good to see you guys as well. Melinda, thank you for joining. Susan, yeah, it's been a rough few months for myself and the whole world. I've been going through a lot of things over the last 6 to 8 months, a lot of health issues, a lot of things I've been dealing with, and I've been going into some really hardcore research, and I've been writing a lot in my books. And there's one subject that I wanted to bring up that I'm going to elaborate on further in future videos. And if you guys check out tfrlive.com/Eye of Ra, my last show on Truth Frequency Radio, it goes into this topic pretty deeply. And if you guys are familiar with maybe Hindu lore, or even in Hebrew lore, many other different ancient civilizations have the same lore, just different names. They talk about times where the earth goes through phases of punishment, basically phases of darkness. And some say, if you know, the Hindus at least, they say that the Kali Yuga is one of the like 4 main stages that the universe, the world will go through. And some mystics debate it, but some people believe that we are in the grips of Kali Yuga right now. Kali is basically a time where a rise of darkness comes over humanity in the world like a wave. But during these times, of course, there's evil that arises, but during these times there's rises of avatars or good ones that arise within people. And I do think that these evil waves, they can manifest and take over people in bad ways, and then there's also can be good people that manifest, and good deeds get carried out through good people, right? So if you think about this, the benevolent and the malevolent forces that have been battling for eons and eons are at an all-time high right now. It's in everything that we are doing, every decision that we make, everything that we feel, everything that we do throughout the day. The good and the bad are swirling, and I could feel it in me, I could feel it around me, I could feel it around everyone, that there's a positive and negative war taking place within every decision that you make, within every emotion, every feeling, everything that you do. And it's an all-time intense feeling, and that the malevolent forces have been winning in various ways, and they are making sure the human population cannot manifest the rise of what we would call an avatar, or someone that rises and can change the good of humanity through their good deeds and their spiritual level of understanding and teaching. That there's something that happens, whether it's a certain genetic mixture or a cosmic alignment that a celestial alignment just takes place, where when one is born, they are born to raise sparks in people and lead humanity to an upheaval and spiritual. And the way our society is designed right now, it's designed so our senses are dulled, our body is getting pounded with all sorts of negative energy. There's a very small chance one can be born for greatness in those ways. Even the ones that we consider great on the planet nowadays are usually people that are just like good at a sport or something like to that effect. It's not someone who is completely running on all cylinders spiritually and physically, mentally, everything. You know, it's really, we're using like 3 to 5% of who we are, if that. And this is what's going on. And during these times of punishment or darkness, it's said in Hebrew lore that certain things arise to claim the souls and to manifest evil and take over people. And many people have heard of the name Lilith, and I've talked about this before, but not in this way. Now, Lilith is an ancient creature that it would take hours to go into the possibilities, but the first time we basically see her in ancient writings is on the Sumerian kings list, and she's like the great granddaughter or granddaughter of the dragon mother Tiamat, and she's of the dragon bloodlines. And it's quite possible that the ones that they call the Nephilim or the fallen angels, when they mixed with the human race and took wives, human females as wives, like it talks about in Genesis 6, like it talks about in the book of Enoch, it's quite possible that they made hybrid creatures that could give birth to giants and the Rephaim and all of these other creatures that we see in history. And it's possible that Lilith was one of these ancient women who was the mother of giants. And now these are people that are encoded with... Oh, thank you so much, Susan. Thank you so much for supporting me. Lilith is one that is encoded with I forgot what I was saying, but I'll get back into it. But first of all, with Lilith, she is one of the ones that is said to be the mother of giants, right? And if you go back in lore, you can find that there are various entities with different names that I think is a line of women or sisters that were altered to give birth to these hybrids, or something to that effect. In Europe, you have Herodia and Lilith and Diana and all of these names, even Hecate. All of these names are very, very similar. And it poses as the Virgin Mary, as the Marian. And over time, especially in about the 1800s, there came a wave of evil that really came upon us. And it came in the form of the Virgin Mary, and it started to accelerate. And I think this is the entity Lilith. And what I was talking about the other night is something that happened to me when I was 10 years old. It happened to a family that my family is very close to, and that actually some of their family married into my family, and so they're kind of related to me through marriage as well, this family. And they lived next door to me in my parents' house for many, many years. And it basically put me down the research of looking into something supernatural that is taking place and taking over the psyche of people, and how I even got into a lot of this research as a kid, because I was already experiencing supernatural things as a young child, so I already knew that sort of element existed. So when this event happened, right away I knew it was just more than somebody losing their mind one day and committing a bad act. That I knew there was something supernatural taking place. And it led me to find this ancient creature, Lilith, eventually. And how I got into researching Hebrew lore and ancient mysticism outside of my own background. And in 1988, I was 10 years old, and the next door neighbor next to me, her brother, who lived down the street from us, his sister lived next door to me. Well, her brother, and she was like a second mother to me growing up. She's still alive. She's in her late 60s, early 70s now, and she moved now from. She used to live next door to my father's house for like 30 years. Now she moved, but her brother, who lived in the same neighborhood as us, he married this woman Lillian, and their last name is Rotella. Lillian Rotella, Ed and Lillian Rotella, and they were an amazing couple. They had 2 kids, redheaded children, very curly, bright red hair, and they were at church every Saturday and Sunday. They would see my family at church. They would go to that big Mary that you guys have seen me at. She would go to that and frequent that a lot. And she, yeah, redheaded giants. Yeah, Masaki, what's up, brother? Yeah, so these family, who I'm very close to, and very intimately close to. I played with the little kids all the time. When the kids were about 7 years old and 4 years old, something really tragic took place. They spent Thanksgiving dinner next door to my house. We all ate together. We all hung out for Thanksgiving. I saw them on Thanksgiving, and come, I guess around early December 1988, the wife Lillian started to have little psychotic breaks. Prior to Christmas. Christmas Eve is when everything happened. So prior to Christmas Eve, there was like a few paranoid, like sort of borderline schizophrenic episodes took place with Lillian, the wife. And now at this time, they have 2 young children. They have Edward Jr., who we all called EJ, and Kyle, who was the younger one, who was like 4 years old at the time. And they're like little cute little freckled redheaded kids. And the husband was a big guy, like 6'2", 240 pounds, big. He had probably $1 million construction company in our area. He was building all these big homes in the area. The name of the construction company was Keel Construction, Keel, and it was named after all the people in the family. You know, Kyle, Edward the father, Edward Jr., and Lillian, Keel. Kyle, Edward, and Lillian. So that's the big name of the construction. Like they were a tight family. You know, a guy loved his wife and children. And she started having these psychotic breaks. And come about December 23rd, 1988, she was having like a psychotic breakdown, and her mother and her husband recommended that they go see a psychiatrist. Now she goes to the psychiatrist on December 23rd, 1988, and she tells them that she's seeing the Virgin Mary, and she's having like these almost like ecstasy visions where the Virgin Mary, the Madonna, is coming to her and basically telling her to kill, basically telling her to hurt people. And she tells the psychiatrist all this stuff. He's thinking that she's having some sort of like late, maybe postpartum, like you know, I don't know what, but he's some sort of motherly breakdown. Now this woman they had a lot of money. They had a big home. They had the white picket fence, you know, the dog, the everything, and she didn't have a lot of worries. Now ancient Hebrew lore says that if there's any trouble in the home between husband and wife, immediately Lilith appears, and she can smell the quarrel. She can smell the separation becoming between husband, and she wedges herself in there. And the more intense the negativity gets between the spouses, the more she becomes present, until she's like invading the mind of people, you know. And it's quite possible that we don't know what was going on in the family. They could have been having problems between husband and wife, you know, cheating. She could have been on pills. She could have been an alcoholic. She could have been anything. Like, you don't know what's going on between doors. So I don't know what was going on. Especially, I was 10 years old at the time. It just seemed like they were a normal family. But like I said, my mother would see them in church on the weekends. I played with the children all the time. I never witnessed anything of them having fights between each other, you know. And like I said, I just had spent Thanksgiving with them. So she goes to the psychiatrist, tells him all this stuff, and the psychiatrist prescribed like tranquilizers and told her to come back in a couple days or something like that. So she never fills the prescription. She goes home that night. The next morning is when everything happened. And basically on December 24th, Christmas Eve, 1988, Lillian Rotella killed her husband Edward in bed, and then she took the two young children into the jacuzzi and drowned them. And then she stripped them naked, took them in the jacuzzi, and killed them both. And then she put all three of them in bed together, naked. And most people, everybody assumed that she drugged the husband. I don't know if it came out, if they got the toxicology report that she had drugged him prior to going to sleep somehow, and then stabbed him while he was sleeping, because he would have fought her. He was a big guy too. She's a little thing. But so she killed all three of them, and then she put the knife in her stomach, in her abdomen, stabbed herself a whole bunch of times, and then left the knife in her stomach. And they were found the next morning. She was alive. She lived, but the husband and the two were dead. And we woke up. You know, her mother came to our house, and the guy who was murdered, sister, who lived next door to me, she came screaming, came down the street screaming when she found the bodies, and we called the cops. Everybody called the cops, and Lillian lived, and she got a really good lawyer. And the thing is, that lawyer ended up being my lawyer 10 years later when I got in trouble. My dad got that lawyer. Well, this lawyer ended up getting her a plea of insanity, and she only did like 5 to 7 years or something in a psychiatric ward here in New York. I think she was in Rockland Psych, in Orangeburg, in Rockland Psych. And she's now out. I don't know if she's using her maiden name, which is Lillian Moore, or if she's remarried, changed her name completely, but I couldn't find her now. But she's now out, and I know she's remarried. I know that much. And she killed 3 people. And they even found like certain books on how to stab somebody, certain points to stab on the body, a magazine. So she might have been premeditating this murder for a very long time. The thing is that she almost, this whole scene almost describes Lilith lore to the T, completely, especially how her name Lillian, very close to Lilith, and her children were redheaded, and Lilith is the redheaded mother of giants. And Lilith is said to roam the world in search of children who need to be punished because of the sins of their ancestors. And she basically smiles at children, then smothers them and kills them. And she is someone, like, even in the book of Raziel, in the Zohar, in ancient Hebrew manuscripts, they have various tales about her, and they even have amulets that they draw to protect the women in childbirth from Lilith. They also have incantation bowls that protect women in childbirth against Lilith. And Lilith is present, they say, in homes that have problems, you know, especially between that take place between husband and wife. And she can literally take over the minds of people. Now it's a common myth that women aren't serial killers and are mass murderers. Now, starting in the 1800s, I looked it up. There's a website that I'll provide in the link below. There's a website that started tracking mass murders of wives who've killed their children and husband. Three or more people killed in one day by the mother. And starting in the 1800s, yearly, there's multiple women who have killed their husband and or children in one day. That various times it's reported that they were having visions of gods or visions of the Virgin Mary or some sort of ecstatic vision that was telling them to do this. And afterwards, they either attempted suicide or did actually commit suicide. And Lillian Rotella is on this list. And the thing that's very intriguing that I am doing my research on and that I've been compiling all this information on is that it coincides these killings and these mass killings of mothers. It sort of goes parallel to the rise of seances. And in the 1800s, there was a resurgence of people doing spirit talking and seances and all of this stuff. And this is not a coincidence that there's a rise of all of this demonic infestation and mass violence that arises with mother taking out generations. All right, it's a genetic code that is killing generations and changing. And it goes right in Hebrew lore with the Shekinah, Lilith and the Shekinah, and all the Hebrew goddesses, the Astartes and the Hebrew matronate, and all of this. I mean, the Shekinah. Various people like Shabbatai Zevi and all these Rabbi Luzado, the Vilna Gaon, all of these guys, they have had visions of the Shekinah, which is a mother goddess type figure. That's even part of the Kabbalistic tree, the Malkuth. It's part of the primordial man. It's the kind of represents also people that have visions of the Shekinah. Also have visits from what they call Magadim or the Magid. These are like celestial creatures, but they can also be like fallen angel, demon type things. Am I not coming in? It says it was buffering. I hope I'm all right. I hope it's coming in clear. But so the visions of the mother goddess type thing and having visits from demons and celestial creatures, they go hand in hand. And it happened all through lore. And I definitely feel that this woman was I don't know if you could say for sure it's a Lilith or they put a name on it, but there's something to this this infestation that takes place. I don't think that just someone just started Virgin Mary and out of nowhere, you know. And I know this woman even frequented that giant Virgin Mary, the Black Madonna, that pentagram on its throat, and it's been there for a long time. And satanic rites were done up there in the 80s. I mean, I found German Shepherds hanging in the cornfields back there when I was a kid. So there was a lot of things going on in back there. So who knows what she could have been exposed to or attracted to her. And maybe it's certain genes that they're attracted to as well. You know, the red-headed gene. It's these children. I mean, she basically gave 3 people, you know, took 3 people's lives, and now she's free. And whatever happened to her psyche, that doesn't just go away. I mean, maybe she just like satisfied hunger for a little while, but she should have been locked away for the rest of her life. And if I wasn't so intimately close with the family, I would try to seek her out and interview her, and figure, you know, to her. But in the 1800s, there was a lot of spirit talking, a lot of seances, people levitating tables, and a lot of demonic and diabolical possessions were taking place. And there was one lady from Italy called Eusapia Palladino. Now, Eusapia Palladino, she was basically orphaned as a young kid, and her parents died when she was young. And while she was working as like a maid or a housekeeper for another family, the family started to witness her phenomena, and she was said to levitate tables, be able to prophesize things, and do all sorts of like weird physical manifestations. And she was studied by all sorts of universities and people for many, many years. So that's one name if you guys want to research. Eusapia Palladino. I think you spell her name Eusapia, Eusapia, and the last name is Palladino, Paladino. And she was able to basically not just levitate tables, but they say that disembodied faces would come out of the darkness, and sometimes whole beings, sometimes just the head would come out and come right at people. And she was like a walking, some kind of walking gateway. And she was studied by a lot of doctors and stuff too. But thank you for joining, everybody. We'll see you guys. Thank you guys for supporting me. I'm going to try to do more videos, but I do post weekly, sometimes even daily, information on Patreon. I definitely suggest you guys go there, because that's where all my information is mostly at. It's at patreon.com/themysticalspiral. I also have all new product. I have huge kyanite frequency clusters, the most powerful kyanite you've ever seen. Jumbo clusters of kyanite, beautiful blue kyanite. So definitely contact me. I have golden healer clusters. I have a few tensor tools left. I'll be getting a whole new stock of tensor tools. Should be in about a month from now. Should be all good. But I have frequency clusters, all sorts of crystals. So definitely contact me. And like John says in the chat room, spiral out.